friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. Welcome back, friend. I'm so glad you're here. If you're here with us the last couple of weeks, you'll know we've been knee-deep in the conversations about prepping for summer. And honestly, I feel like we've been building a really strong foundation, from planning to mindset shifts. But today, I'm actually going to talk about what our summer is framing up to look like, the structure of summer based on the foundation we've built. But before I get into any of it, I just want to say this. You already have what it takes to make this summer work. Not the perfect plan, not the right system, not the most optimized schedule. You are capable, you are resourceful, and you have navigated every season that has come before this one, and you are going to navigate this one too. Everything I share today is just a tool, and tools only work when they're working for us. So hold this all loosely and take what fits and let go of the rest, because what we do in this season wouldn't have worked for us 5 years ago, and it might not work for us 5 years from now, but it's working for us in this season. So take what you need and let the rest go. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the mindset shifts around summer, acknowledging that there is a shift in season, and with that comes change and a little feeling of uneasiness. We also paid attention to what season we're in, and we named the constraints that come with that. We also talked about expectations and how they can be the thief of all joy. If you did not tune into that episode, it is a must listen as you go into summer. It's episode 157, and I will link it in the show notes. Then last week, we talked with planning expert Megan Summerall, and she joined me in talking about how we can approach summer, specifically making sure we have A and B days, making time for presence and rest, scaling back. I found the whole conversation super practical, and that's episode 158. Today I'm going to get personal. I'm going to sit down with you and tell you exactly what we are doing in the summer at our house. Not because I think, like I said, there's a right way, but because after 17 summers of parenting, I have learned that what actually helps is not a perfect schedule, not micro planning every day this summer, but having some supportive rhythms, some general guidelines to help us stay nimble and flex when life inevitably does what life does. I think about planning like your GPS route. And I actually talk about this in Tiny Tweaks Happy Life. When you're on a road trip, you leave the house with an itinerary. You know where you're headed. And, it's always asking you, like, do you want to avoid the toll roads? Or do you want to take the fastest route or the scenic route or the route with the least amount of turns? You know what I'm talking about. And we have a general idea of where we're going to go based on that plan. But inevitably, there's construction, there's traffic, or a kid randomly pukes in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and you have to adjust. That happened to us last week. We don't throw the whole trip out. We don't deem the entire trip a failure. We just change the route and we tweak and keep going. And I want you to view summer that way today. These are the rhythms we're starting with. They're not carved in stone. If something stops working mid-June, we'll ask, what do we need now? And we'll make a tweak to change it, because the goal is never the plan itself. The goal is the life the plan is supposed to be supporting. And the moment the plan starts adding pressure instead of relieving it, that is the signal that something needs to shift. And honestly, I think that's one of the most important things we can internalize as we head into summer. If you find yourself getting frustrated, angry, or even resentful when the plan gets disrupted, that's a really good sign you've gotten too attached to it. And the plan is running you instead of the other way around. And that is worth paying attention to. So today I'm going to walk you through 3 things. How I'm scheduling my work this summer, what does it look like for my kids with responsibilities around our house, and how we are handling technology. Pray for me. Those are big conversations, and we're putting them all in one podcast. So buckle up. I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on how we handle feeding people around here in the summer. So stay tuned for that in a couple of weeks. My hope is that somewhere in here, as you hear what we're doing, something will spark in your mind that makes your summer feel a little lighter, a little more like yours, and a lot less like something you have to survive. All right, let's get into it. First, let's talk about my work. Okay. Last week, Megan talked about timing how long things take, and something clicked in me when I heard her say that, because she said oftentimes we can think things take more time than they do. So I've taken the last couple of weeks to time every single thing on my calendar. She said, you can time daily tasks and weekly tasks. So I have a little running spreadsheet, just like I like paper and pencil. I have a paper product company. So I printed out a little spreadsheet and I just keep track. And I have found that things don't take as long as I think they do, and some things take a little bit longer. But that information has helped me to know how long things take so I can plug them in on my calendar for the summer and say, okay, on this day, I only have 2 hours to work. So what can I fit in? Generally, I have themed days. So today is Tuesday, and that's my podcasting day. So that's the day I write my script. I write any ad scripts I need to do, my intros. I record the podcast. I do any correspondence about podcasting, pitching, all of that kind of stuff. That's on Tuesdays. On Monday, I'm usually writing my book and taking care of that. On Wednesday, I'm taking care of Amazon ads and just taking care of inventory, checking in on our Amazon because we sell our products there. Thursday is all about planning for social media, writing my weekly email, and then Friday is planning for next week. Of course, there's more to the story, but those are kind of my themes for each day. And I kind of have noticed how long, checking my email takes, how long fulfilling orders takes, how long writing my podcast script takes. It took me an hour today, and I've gotten faster at it, but it takes me some time. So that way I kind of know on Tuesday, if I'm going to do podcasting, I'm going to probably need 3 hours of work minimum on that day. Now, do I have to do podcasts on Tuesday? No. And if we have something special in the summer that we need to do, I can move that chunk to a different day of the week. But knowing how long things take and then moving things around is really important. And then I just plan every single Friday. That's why I love planning on Fridays, because I can look at the next week and I can say, okay, what does my week need to look like? Can I still write on Mondays? Can I still record my podcast on Tuesday? For example, we have Memorial Day that we threw in a couple of weeks ago, so I wasn't working on Monday. So of course I wasn't going to write my book on Monday. So where was that going to flex into the week and making those decisions? So the other thing that I have been doing the last couple of weeks that has been so helpful for me, and I realize that this might not work for everybody. And in the past, I wouldn't share these specific details because I know a 9 to 5 or corporate job or whatever, this might not be helpful, but I still think it's helpful just hearing what people do. So I'm sharing it anyway, knowing that it might not work, but it's going to be helpful to somebody. I also talk about my 3 big goals. And I think this works across the board, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or work away from home mom or work at home mom. What are your 3 big goals that if you got those 3 things done for the day, you would be able to say, check, I got what I needed done. And that has been helpful. I do that in my morning quiet time. And I actually, as a Christian, commit that to God and just say, okay, I think these are the 3 things I'd like to be able to get done. What do you think about it? Can you help me with it? All of those sorts of things. And God has been so faithful in that. But it also helps me to feel like what I did is enough, especially as an achiever. So for today, my big 3 goals were to write this podcast script, record the podcast, and then prepare the social media post and mini chat so that you could get last week's podcast. So those are my big 3. Of course, there's little things within each of those that I need to do, but those are kind of my big overarching goals for the day. And so that's been really helpful. So you could do that even at home. What are my 3 big goals for today at home? And then go from there. Another thing with work that Megan talked about last week that I agreed with is we definitely scale back in the summer. I was really inspired by Emily Lay, who talked about this years ago, that she really scaled back even the amount of meetings that she had with her employees. My assistant, Carrie, and I, we normally meet every other week. In the summertime, we just meet once a month and then we text in between. We just really scale back. There's no extra projects. I just met with my business coach the other day with a new idea that I want to implement. And she said, let's talk about that in August. So I have a sticky note to talk about it and return to it in August because she knows my priority is my kids. They're not going to be little forever. And so being present with them in the summer, we don't do as many projects in the summertime. And I have the option to do that and flex a little in that way. And so that's really important. And then I think the next thing I had to kind of ties back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago is that I have to expect to be interrupted during my workday. My kids are going to want to know if they can have a snack, if they can go over to their friend's house, if I can take them this place, right? And like going into the workday knowing that I'm going to get interrupted feels different than being surprised every time a kid walks in. Like I just am expecting the interruption. And so I can handle that with more grace, if you will, than being surprised. And then the last thing is I give myself the grace to go to a library or a coffee shop as a backup. When I wrote book number 1, I wrote that book, a large part of it in the summer. My kids were a little bit younger, and I would book time at the library to go and to write. Just giving myself that space so that I wasn't interrupted, I could stay completely in the zone is really helpful. What I have found now is if I, all possible, my best working hours, my most creative, juicy hours are in the morning, which for the most part works great because my kids tend to have the most bandwidth to entertain themselves in the morning hours before they also kind of lose that creativity. Isn't that funny how that lines up? So we'll talk about this, kid responsibilities in the summer. They kind of have like a more independent morning. Remember, mine are 16, 14, 10, and 8, but they are more independent in the morning. Well, I get my work done and then we have fun in the afternoon. And that just helps me to be present, knowing how much time things take, looking at my week a week ahead of time and being able to flex and plan based on what our schedule looks like. Okay, this day I'm going to write my podcast and this day I'm going to play my book. That helps me then in my brain to know it's all going to get done on the day that it's assigned. And then I can be present fully in this moment. So that's kind of how I'm scheduling my work this summer. Okay, let's move on to kid responsibilities in the summer. I view kid responsibilities and summer as this opportunity to teach them life skills with the time that I have that we don't have as much of during the school year. So things like laundry, chores, how to scrub a toilet, how to make your own breakfast, how to make toast, how to pour yourself a glass of milk. All of those sorts of little tiny tasks that kids need to learn how to do. I really think about summer as being kind of that idea. You've probably heard of like life skill boot camp or how to be an adult boot camp, all those sorts of things, right? Where we're teaching our kids those age appropriate expectations. But here's what I'd say as a former first grade teacher. Kids can do more than we give them credit for. They are able to do more than we think. And the younger that you let them do things, the better. I will tell you, I love my teenagers, but my younger two are more excited to take on responsibility than my older two. My older two understand that it is a job and it is a chore, whereas my younger two feel very grown up when they're asked to do something and they're more excited about it. So the younger you start, the better because they're going to be more motivated to do and to learn. Okay, and as I always say, we're not just raising kids, we're raising future adults. Not only is this going to lighten your load this summer, it's going to help you going into the fall if they know how to make their own breakfast and their own lunch. And also when they go off to college and move out, they have all of these skills as well. Sissy and David Goff just wrote the book Capable, and it's how to help your kids be resilient. But one of the things they've talked about a long time on their podcast is asking yourself, what are 3 things that you are doing for your kids that they could do for themselves? And what's one thing that you're doing for your kids that they could almost do by themselves if you helped teach them? And I think that's a really good question and a really good tweak as you go into summer. What are some things that you're doing for your kids that honestly they could do for themselves? And can I just share a caveat that sometimes as a mom, I feel bad that I'm having my kids do these things when other moms are doing it for them, right? We put a lot of stock in, am I a good mom or a bad mom? And we weigh that by looking around and saying, well, this mom, who I think is a good mom, is doing all of this X, Y, and Z for her kids. She's folding her laundry from start to finish, or she's making all of their meals, or whatever it is, right? But I think we need to pull back and not judge everybody else, not compare, because of course we're comparing their best version to our perceived worst version. So asking yourself, what can my kids do? Because what David and Sissy talk about is this really helps build confidence and resilience in our kids. Again, these are life skills they're going to take with them. And so if we look beyond just, oh, I'm doing this for them, or they have to do this themselves. And it's more about helping them have these responsibilities. And that perspective helps me to give more to them. So what are 3 things that you're doing for your kids that they could do themselves this summer? And what's one thing that you do for them that with a little bit of coaching and teaching, they can also do for themselves? We're big proponents of just having daily rhythms at our house. I've tried chore charts. I've tried big systems. They just don't work for us, but they do really well with like a very consistent rhythm, just like during the school year. So in the morning when they get up, they still go to the bathroom, brush their teeth, and get dressed and put their laundry in their laundry basket. Each kid has a laundry basket in their room. So theoretically, and this works younger, better than older, they put their laundry in the laundry basket in their room. And then they come down and they have breakfast. Now, if I am having breakfast and they are up, I will offer to make like eggs or sausage or anything like that. However, we also have frozen pancakes from the sourdough pancakes we make that they know how to microwave. Even my 8-year-old, I've taught them how to microwave. They know how to use the toaster safely with tongs. They know they have yogurt in the fridge that they can have yogurt parfaits. They know how to, make bagels with cream cheese. So there's lots of options. But if I'm making myself breakfast and they want eggs, I always ask them. If they do, I'll make them some. Otherwise, breakfast is independent and they know what the options are. We've taught them to do those things. So if you've never taught them how to toast, that might be something that you teach them the first week of summer. Like, this is how you toast the bread. This is how you put jam on. Is it going to be messy in the beginning? Yes. Is this a skill that they can do and then and do it independently? Yes. And is it going to lighten your load and help them? Absolutely. So they do breakfast on their own, and then they have some responsibilities in the morning. They have to unload the dishwasher. They have to clean up their dishes from breakfast, make sure they put all of their own things away. And then they can go and they can play for the morning. So they kind of have a few jobs in the morning right on the onset. We are going to try something new with laundry this summer. And we've always sort of done loosely laundry by person. But we just did this when we came home from our Texas trip. I got out the 6 laundry baskets, and normally Scott and I do our laundry together. However, we even made a tweak in that. So everybody got home from our trip. I made them unpack their suitcase right by the laundry room. Like literally there were 6 suitcases. Each person had their own laundry basket. They dumped all their dirty clothes in the laundry basket, and I lined it up by person. So, of course, Quincy, Lucille, Solon, Vera, Scott, and I, we all had our own basket, and I washed it by person. Now, I washed it because they had to go to school. But this summer, the plan is to have a day of the week, or we can all do it on one day. However we decide to do it, we'll tweak it. But we're going to wash by person, and they will be responsible for washing it, moving it to the dryer, taking out of the dryer, and putting it away. And again, my older 2 knew how to do their own laundry, but my younger 2, I'm going to teach them this summer so that they can do it on their own. And that's just going to lighten the load for everybody. And then their laundry is clean. So that is the plan for laundry. Like I said, I'm flexing a little bit on whether there'll be a day of the week, like Quincy's on Monday, Vera's on Tuesday, or if we just do it, laundry days on Friday and everybody does it. We go through the lineup. That part is still we're going to flex and see how it goes. Test that part out. But the by person is a game changer for us because they just pull it out of the dryer, take it right upstairs. If it does not get folded in their drawers, I really don't care. They hang up all of their shirts, so those are generally not wrinkly. Shorts, underwear, socks, that kind of stuff. It doesn't, they're wearing athletic wear. It doesn't get really wrinkly in their drawers anyway. The kitchen is a equal opportunity place, meaning if you get something out, you need to put it away. You need to rinse your dish and put it in the dishwasher. We unload the dishwasher in the morning, so all day long they can load the dishes back into the dishwasher. And so that's really helpful. And then they unload it in the morning. When we have meals together, everybody's responsible for putting at least 3 items away. That's the rule. They just know that's the expectation, in addition to their plates and silverware and drink glass. And then in the evening, we do a reset of the main areas. I just say, okay, it's time to clean up, and everybody knows they need to put everything away. The main areas are our kitchen, dining room, family room, and then their basement family room, which is the kids zone. Their bedrooms, they do it once a week for Sunday tidy. So if they don't want to clean their room every day, that's fine. But the main spaces get reset. I firmly believe that resetting a main space helps their creativity immediately blossom again. It's like scribbling on a blank piece of paper versus a scribbled piece of paper that already has stuff all over it. Literally, it's a game changer, having them reset a space. So if you're finding your kids get bored, reset the space with them. That is the tiny tweak that is a game changer. If you do it right before nap or they're getting restless, reset the space. And then, of course, like I said, we do our normal Sunday tidy where their boys are odd. Boy is a 3-letter word, so odd is what I came up with. They do the bathrooms on the odd days. Girls are even because there's 4 letters in girl, 4 letters in even, 4 letters in bath. That's how I remember. So girls clean the bathroom on even days. And then on the opposite weeks, they vacuum their floor. So the bathrooms are always getting cleaned every week. Their floors are always getting vacuumed every week, and that's how we do it. And my 8-year-old, again, we taught Quincy how to vacuum. He actually told me the other day that is his favorite job. He loves vacuuming. I can't blame him. I love the vacuum lines too. But again, they're younger. They are capable of more than you think. One last thing too is having set spaces for summer items. Like, do you have a set spot for beach towels? A set place for where they put their shoes? We love baskets by the back door for their shoes. I actually set up a beach bag when they were little with, their goggles and sunscreen and towels. Now that they're older, I just have a basket full of towels. They know where we keep the sunscreen and the goggles. So it's really easy for them to grab and go as well. But just thinking through that so that it's independent, not just so that you're the gatekeeper of where everything lives, so then it falls on your shoulders, but really sharing where those things live so that they can both find them and put them away. So that kind of sums up how we do family responsibilities. It really is all hands on deck. And like I said, summer is kind of one of those times where I'm teaching those responsibilities. I will talk about meals more, like I said, in an upcoming episode. Okay. Last but not least, how we handle technology. Oh, can we be honest? Oh my goodness. There are more screens in the summertime. Maybe you took a collective exhale or maybe you guffawed, but that's just our reality. There are more screens in the summertime. The structure of the school day is gone. Everyone is home more, and screens definitely fill the gaps. So instead of pretending that's not true, I just work with it. My kids are older, so my goal isn't to come up with a 1990s summer where everybody's outside from morning till to dusk. Although honestly, that sounds dreamy. And when my kids were younger, we did that a lot more. So if you're in that season, embrace it. But since I'm all about acknowledging the season I'm in, that's not my reality with a 14 and a 16-year-old. We have devices, we have phones, so we're going to tweak how we use them. And everybody and every family, like I said, is different. I want to make sure that we have some analog fun and take care of our real life responsibilities. My kids all in the house, live in the house, like I said. So they have their jobs. They know what they are. They know what the expectations are. Like when the groceries come in, we put them away. They put the snacks away. They break down the boxes. They have all of these sorts of jobs, and those are before technology. I mimic it like a real job. We take care of our responsibilities and our jobs first. We enjoy technology after, right? That's the rhythm. Um, I have 4 kids, and all of them, they're all in different stages. My youngest doesn't have an iPad. He's a second grader. He doesn't have his own iPad. He has one that he can check out that's our family iPad, but he doesn't have one that he has access to on a daily basis. Again, every kid is different, and that's just what we feel like is best for him. My fourth grader, she does have an iPad. It's kind of her way to communicate and text with the family. She can FaceTime, she can text, but she doesn't have, obviously, any social media, no data. It's just a Wi-Fi enabled iPad. But she has that. So she normally asks for an hour of iPad time every day, and she sets an alarm. This is how my older 2 kids used to do it too. They get an hour. They can choose when that is, as long as their responsibilities are done. So if she gets done with her responsibilities at 9 o'clock in the morning and she wants her iPad time for an hour, great. But she sets an alarm on her iPad for 1 hour, and she self-monitors. Now, they know if they abuse the alarm and they use the iPad longer than an hour and I catch them, they lose the device for a period of time. And every once in a while, every summer, they all test the limits and they lose the device. Natural consequence. But I love that they can self-monitor because, again, I'm trying to put the responsibility of boundaries on them to help self-monitor and not always have to be the bad guy. So it works really well, like I said, and then they just know the consequence. We follow through on the consequence, and that really helps. I will say I view TV a little differently than individual device time, because when my kids are watching something together, they're usually interacting, we're laughing, they're talking, they're doing something relatable. You know, they rewind the same scene 4 times because someone laughed too hard to catch it. This feels different to me than everyone disappearing into their own screen in different corners of the house. So TV and screen time look different. If they want to watch TV for a little bit every day, great, right? Again, within reason. I usually will say, like, yes, you can watch a show, or each of you can pick a show. And that's kind of a good rhythm for us. And then, of course, we will watch TV tonight at night. We like to watch Wheel of Fortune. We like to watch cooking shows together, different DIY shows together, Rock the Block or Hometown, whatever. Now, with my older kids, when it comes to device, we do have a couple of rules that are year-round. Number one, they charge all of their devices in our bathroom. It just helps them to go to bed on time, right? They're the same as me. They will scroll, or they will play the games or whatever they do on their phone until too late and miss their bedtime, which is never good for anybody. So the lights out, we put our phone devices away around 9 p.m. unless they're out and about or whatever, but we just put them away in our bathroom at night, and there are no devices in bedrooms. If it needs to be done privately, it probably shouldn't be done. So main spaces, the basement family room, the main living family room, they can be anywhere with their devices in the main spaces. And these boundaries have worked well for us so far. None of my kids have significant others yet where they want to talk privately. So it's working for us right now. Again, we're always flexing and changing based on the season we're in. So this is where we're at right now. Okay, screen time for our 14 and 16-year-old. I will say last summer was hard. As we all know, you can get irritable, frustrated, anxious, just dysregulated by being on your phone too much. And I felt like I was the phone police all summer. So I had some friends who recommended the brick. I'm sure you've heard about bricking your phone. And so we're going to try that this summer. We're starting with 4 hours per day for each of the 2 big kids to have their phones. Some of you might think, wow, 4 hours a day is a lot. And some of you might be like, oh my goodness, good luck, right? My goal was to pick a number that felt like there was enough margin in the day that it didn't immediately turn into a no, because I have to get them to buy in a little bit. But I also want my kids to start paying attention to how they feel when they're on their devices too much. build awareness around how they actually feel. Are they feeling anxious, restless, disconnected? I want them to start noticing those patterns instead of constantly policing it. Like I said, I'm trying to be the training wheels to help them have good phone boundaries. It is tricky. It is tricky. So that's kind of what we're doing. I will report back on the brick and let you know, but that's kind of our plan right now. They're not super excited about it, but we're going to try it out because, like I said, last summer I was quite the police. Video games. We're not a big video game family. My kids don't tend to play it. Solon does have an Xbox and he does a lot of flight simulation. In my opinion, that looks different than just being on your phone. He is learning a lot about how to fly, so he can do that when he wants. Let's see. What else did I want to say? There were seasons when my kids were younger. I had horrible pregnancies. I was super sick, where screens helped me survive. Whether you are pregnant, you're exhausted, you're nursing a baby, you're trying to get work done in a hard season, I use screens and I have zero regret about it. My mindset when it comes to all of this is never all or nothing, or my way or the highway. I am always looking for what is the best for us in this season. Some is better than none. Black and white is really hard when it comes to technology because there's just so much gray area. And so the goal is always balance instead of perfection. That's why I like tweaking, because I'm like, you know what? This didn't work this week, or this didn't work this day. We're going to try this tomorrow and we're going to see if that works a little better. For us, a few guardrails that help. We don't do any screens at the dinner table. We don't bring screens on short trips around town. Of course, my big kids have their phones, but no iPads, that kind of stuff. Road trips, of course. Every family is we do screens. Every family is going to navigate this differently. One last thing. Solon, my oldest, just got Instagram. Neither one of my two big kids has Snapchat yet. Being online for as long as I have, I know how harsh the internet can be. And so we have just waited till they're past those years where it's already hard enough being a kid, right? And so I had asked people that I respected that were kind of on the threshold of when social media came into play. So those in their early 20s, mid 20s now probably, they were kind of the first people that social media was available to them in the middle school and high school years. And I just asked them, like, when do you wish you got social media? And so many of them said, if you can just get them past middle school, kind of the first year of high school, it will help them so much because it's just so hard. You feel left out. People say mean things, all those sorts of things. And so I took that to heart, and that's kind of what we did is we kind of checked with our kids, and our oldest was ready for Instagram. He asked us and we were like, you know what, based on, everything else you've got going on, yes. And so he made that decision. And so we're kind of approaching it gradually and intentionally, just really thoughtfully, taking into consideration what has worked for others and what works for our family. So all of that to be said, technology is one of those things I am definitely navigating and flexing, and I'm so grateful for tweaking because if it doesn't work today, like I said, we can tweak it tomorrow. All right, friend, this was a lot. How I'm planning my work, what the kids' responsibilities are going to look like this summer, how we're dealing with technology. And maybe it feels like a big mashed up soup because some of it is. Like I said, I am a very big, like, bird's eye view planner. This is kind of where I think we're going. These are kind of some of the general guidelines. But I also know that we're going to have to tweak it as we go. I hope that you have been left with at least one thing. Take a tweak with you. Maybe it was something about the way I'm structuring my work hours, or the way we're handling screen time, or even the idea of writing out the week and putting it on the fridge so everyone knows what to expect. Whatever it was that made you think, I could try that. That is your tweak. Just one. You don't need to overhaul your whole summer today, because that's what I know to be true after everything we've talked about over the course of this podcast. You've got this. You really do. If this episode was helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend who's handling summer and maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, or leave a rating and review and let me know the tweak you're going to try this week. I think we all know someone who needs to hear the Simple Purposeful Living podcast, and the only way they're going to hear about it is maybe through you, either with a rating or review or a personal, hey, you need to listen to this. And if you want to grab the weekly plan notepad to help you map out each week as it comes, head to the link in the show notes or shop.simplepurposefulliving.com and use code podcast to get 10% off your order. Start with a general plan. Give yourself full permission to tweak as you go. And when something stops working, don't call it a failure. Just ask, hey, what's a tweak we can make? What do we need right now? And then do that thing. I'll be back next week, but until then, I hope you find a tweak to simplify your week. And remember, you don't have to overhaul your life or your summer to love it. There's good right here and now. If you liked this episode, it would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.